So one of the questions that I always get asked is, Pete, when is a good time to invest in the market? Should I invest now? Should I wait for the market to fall? Is the market too high? Should I just hold off? And in fact, this question came up on our live session just this past Sunday. So this video is going to be dedicated to answering that question unequivocally. And I'm not just going to be the random person on the internet telling you get in right now or just wait for a little bit. I'm going to back it up with a little bit of data that I found earlier today, and the results are quite staggering. So guys, if you are new to this channel, welcome. We talk about investing here. It's where we give you information and education to help you make the best financial and investment decisions. So consider subscribing, hit that notification bell, and help me smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Let's get into this one. Now, if you're a first-time investor, it is natural to be a little bit tentative about when you invest in the market because, let's face it, you're a little bit worried about potentially losing money because you know that there are stories of people who have lost money in the markets. And you know what? Beyond that, you've worked really, really hard for your cash. So you don't want to take any undue risk. And this is really important because it's all about the investor psychology, right? You have to be a little bit comfortable with taking a risk, but you want to get off to the best start possible. So what I want to do in this video is essentially just give you the answer to this, but back it up with some data that hopefully will give you confidence as a first-time investor. So I'm sure you've heard the saying, buy low, sell high. It's a pretty simple business principle to take on board. Everybody understands that principle. However, when you're looking at the stock market, it's not easily applied. As simple as it sounds, it's very, very difficult to apply because the conundrum is, well, what is a good low? Is that low actually the best low to invest? And if the markets are high, is that the best new low based on where the market could potentially go? All these kind of things can rattle around your head. They could really mess you up if you pay too much attention trying to figure out how you apply this very, very simple principle. One of the best things we can do, though, is have a look at data. So today, when I was doing research for this video, I came across a beautiful piece of work that another YouTuber has actually done, analyzing the markets, the S&P 500 specifically between 1988 and 2019. And I tell you, the numbers are actually quite staggering. I'm going to talk you through very high level what this document is basically telling us, and you can use this to inform your decision of, well, when should you be looking to invest? When should you be looking to buy stock? Should you be doing it now or should you wait? And this document runs through three scenarios. So first and foremost, it runs through a scenario where you are a genius. You're Einstein and you've managed to time the markets perfectly. Now, historically, there was a huge market crash in 2000, which was the dot-com bubble bursting. And we had one in 2008 as well, which is the financial crisis, which is the most recent one in memory from not too long ago. There was also a miniature one back in 2018. So the first scenario that this data looks at is you're lucky enough to have timed it perfectly. You got in at the low of the lows during those three periods. The other circumstance that it looks at is, well, what if you didn't time it right? What if every time that you put money in, it just happened to be the high? And when you put your money in, unfortunately, the market then crashed. What happens if you'd invested your money? And it also looks at a third scenario where you just didn't care. You did what I would say you should do and invest on a monthly basis, not worrying about whether the market is at a high or is at a low. It's just getting involved in the market, not worrying about timing it, getting time in the market and trying to benefit from pound cost averaging. So this is what the data shows. So this data looks at the S&P 500 from 1988, and it looks at the average total return of the S&P 500, assuming that you invest £500 every single month until 2019. Now, in the initial instance, we can see what the returns of the S&P 500 have actually been, and you can see how the index numbers actually work here. But in the instance of you investing £500 every single month, you're looking to time yourself for the dot-com bubble that burst back in 2000. So essentially what you're finding here is that by the time that you invest, what you're essentially doing is you are investing a total contribution of £73,500 into the S&P 500 at that given time. And this is looking at an index fund specifically. So a low cost index fund that gives you access to some of the big holdings in the S&P 500. Now, I'm not going to run through the entire grid, but this is, you making an investment with perfect timing. And then you've also got the other scenario that I talked about where you were unfortunate and you got in at the wrong point, you got in at a high, and shortly after, the market takes a little bit of a dive. So the perfect timing is in green right here. Then you've got another section as well where you invest in the red. And in the blue is if you just invest money on a monthly basis, benefiting from pound cost averaging, not worrying about the highs, not worrying about the lows. Now, you would have made a total contribution of £192,000 during that period of time. Now, if you were lucky enough to actually have timed the markets perfectly, got in at the right time in 2000, in 2008, and even with the little blip that we had back in 2018, then perfect timing would mean that you would have over £1.2 million invested with your investment returns over that same period of time, having only contributed or invested £192,000. So a huge gain. Now, if you are unfortunate enough to be in the second scenario, where unfortunately you invested, the market was at a high, and the markets then trailed off, then the number is quite significantly different. The number is £577,552.28. A huge difference by the tune of about £700,000. Now, let's just say you didn't worry about the timing and all you simply wanted to do was put money into the market on a monthly basis, have that healthy investment habit, buy the S&P 500 in an index fund over that period of time, then you would have ended up with $1.183 million. Now, it isn't too far behind what would have happened if you had perfectly timed the market. But essentially, it meant that you wouldn't have had any of the mental arithmetic, mental gymnastics, mental stress potentially that you would have had worrying about actually timing the market. And these numbers are actually quite powerful. I will leave a link to this document so you can actually download it and have a good look at it yourselves. But I think it tells us a handful of things. And these are the three key takeaways that I have from looking at this data. And it answers very clearly, when should you buy stocks exactly? The first takeaway from this data for me is that first and foremost, it's just really important that you get invested right now. If you are lucky enough to have made those right decisions and invested at the perfect time, historically, the difference between you doing that and just investing on a monthly basis, developing that healthy investment habit and just enjoying the ride. Well, I say enjoying because it can be very, very stressful when the markets are down, but taking the rough with the smooth, then you're pretty much on par. I think the difference in the numbers are only about £100,000 over that period of time. It's not a significant difference. But the point is, by just getting started now, by developing that investment habit, investing cheaply. I've spoken about the fact that, you should, at this point in time, given where we are in 2020, where the UK economy is in recession, there's so much global uncertainty when it comes to the stock markets, that investing in the markets right now is all about getting market saturation. What I mean by that is putting money into the markets where you're able to invest in companies, as many companies as you possibly can, not individual stocks necessarily. There is room for that, but now presents a really good opportunity to buy as many companies as you possibly can in index funds at a discount. So in simple answer, get going now. Don't wait. Don't worry about time in the market, whether the market is at a high or whether it's at a low, because the data tells us that just by investing on a monthly basis and taking the rough with the smooth, you're still going to be pretty well off. Investing over that period of time, the results are absolutely staggering, which brings me on to takeaway number 2. Time is absolutely key. Time is precious. The longer you have to invest in the market and to develop that investment habit to benefit from the impacts of compound interest, the bigger your pot is going to be in the future. And I've made a couple of videos on this talking about, how to invest in your 20s, 30s, and 40s. The numbers are consistent across all of the calculations, all of the simulations that I've run. In this video right here, there's a thumbnail right there. I had a look at a very, very similar scenario for, people in their 20s, literally just invest in £100 a month into the markets, assuming a specific return. You can end up with £1.2 million very, very easily over the course of 40 years, given average market returns historically. Now, clearly, historic returns are no indication of what the markets are going to do in the future. But you could assume that if the markets were to do similar things, that's what your outcome will be. But there's one thing that this data tells us very, very clearly is that time is absolutely key. It is crucial. The best way for you to create wealth is over the long term and by forming a really healthy investment habit. And that means investing what you can, no matter how little it may seem to you right now, because when you're invested in the markets and the markets perform well, as they have done historically, the effect of compound interest can be quite profound. And the third and final takeaway for me is we need to learn how to invest like a robot. And I say like a robot because it's really important that we are able to invest without allowing our emotions to get involved. We've already talked about the fact that the rule is to buy low and sell high. But in reality, the opposite often happens. People will go into the markets, buy into the markets at a high point, and they'll sell when the markets are at a low point. And the reason why they do that is because they get scared. They don't want to lose money, and therefore they panic and then they cash in their investments. And I say this a lot on my investment course. You never want to cash in a loss. It's not real until you physically cash that in. So it's very, very important that you're able to control your mindset, you're able to control your emotions, that you're able to look at investments with a cold, hard, calculated mindset. And as dispassionate and robotic as that may sound, that is crucial to being a successful investor. You never want to get emotions involved in your investment decisions. It is the road to disaster, in my view. It's when you panic, it's when you're not thinking clearly, it's when you forget that you have a goal. And we talk a lot about goals on this channel. I speak about it again on the investment course. But these are all crucial things that you have to keep in the back of your mind. But guys, I hope that you found this useful. If you have enjoyed it, make sure that you smash the like button. It will really help me out with the YouTube algorithm, and it will help this channel grow and this video be seen by people like yourself who are asking the same questions. So I'd really, really appreciate that. Please let me know in the comments, what has your mentality been around investing? Are you looking at the markets right now thinking, I'm not too sure, I'm going to hold off, I'm going to wait? Or are you of my persuasion where you just think, I'm just going to get in and form that investment habit and ride the coattails of the markets regardless of what happens? Let me know in the comment box. But guys, thank you so much for watching. If you've not listened to the podcast, I've got Forex as the topic this week. You definitely need to go and listen to it. You will not be disappointed. That's the artwork right there. Catch you on Friday.